everybody, what is going on? It is your boy Arrows here. Today we have a Final Fantasy TCG deck profile for you guys. I'm hopefully going to be getting back into more competitive Final Fantasy TCG play in the coming months with the return of Crystal Cups, and hopefully being able to get out to Kingston, which is about an hour, give or take, away from me driving. So hopefully we're going to be able to play in some more Final Fantasy tournaments going forward. So we're going to give you guys a deck profile of the current deck that I'm running right now. We're playing Scions of the 7th Dawn from Final Fantasy XIV, and what makes this deck really cool and really unique is that you can essentially build this deck from two starter deck products. So you can, the core of this deck comes from the Final Fantasy XIV Opus 5 starter deck, as well as the Shadowbringers 2-player starter set that just recently came out. So we are going to get into this deck right now and show you guys what we're playing. So it is primarily a Earth Lightning deck because the bulk of the Scions of the 7th Dawn are Earth Lightning. There are some Fire ones that you can get as well, and some Wind ones, but I personally find the characters are at their best in the Earth and Lightning elements. So let's get into the deck right now. So first off, we are running 3 copies of the Shadowbringers starter deck Thancred. This Thancred is really good. When another job Scion of the 7th Dawn enters the field, Thancred gains an additional 2,000 plus haste and brave. So what that means is that when Thancred attacks, he will be able to untap right away, and he'll be able to attack on the turn we play him if we can play another Scion as well. But Thancred also has this really cool ability called Blasting Zone. At the cost of discarding a copy of Thancred and tapping Thancred, we can deal damage to a forward equal to Thancred's current power. So if on a turn you play Thancred and you play another job Scion of the 7th Dawn anywhere, you can then give Thancred plus 2,000 and haste and brave. He can attack, he'll untap, and then you can tap him for Blasting Zone, discard another copy of Thancred, and deal some damage to another forward. Really good card altogether. Thancred is a welcome addition to this deck. Now, when I say you can discard another copy of Thancred, it does not have to be this copy of the card. It can be another version of Thancred as well. So we are playing 3 copies of the Opus 7 common Thancred. When Thancred enters the field, I can choose one forward my opponent controls and dull it. And if Thancred was played using only Category 14 backups, he gains an additional plus 2,000 haste and first strike. So what that means is that if we tapped 3 of our backups to play Thancred, and they were all Category 14 backups, he can come out and he'll have haste and first strike. So when he attacks, we will do our damage to our opponent first if they choose to block us, which is really good. Moving away from Thancred, we are running 3 copies of Oriange EX. This is from the Shadowbringers 2-player starter set. What it is when Oriange enters the field, I can reveal the top 2 cards of my deck and add 1 Category 14 character among them to my hand, and I can put the other one on the bottom of my deck. This is really good because if we also take damage, and Oriange is the damage that we take, then Oriange's ability will also activate in the damage, giving us the ability to search the top 2 cards of our deck for a Final Fantasy XIV category forward. That is very important. It does not have to be a job Scion of the 7th Dawn. There are some really good category 14 forwards that we are playing in this deck that are not Scions. So Thancred gives us an extra option to search them out, which is really good. Then we are running 3 copies of the 2-player Shadowbringer starter deck. Yashala, she is a 6-drop Earth forward. She cannot be chosen by my opponent's summons. When Yashala enters the field, I can choose 1 forward in my break zone. If the number of Final Fantasy XIV job Scion of the 7th Dawn I have on my field is less than or equal to that card, I can play it. So, for example, if I had 2 Scions on the field and I played Yashala, I could bring back Oriange, I could search, really good stuff. If I had 4, I could bring back Thancred. Good card all around. Definitely get mileage out of her, for sure. We're running then 3 copies of Papalimo EX. Papalimo, when he enters the field, I can search my deck for a card named Ida and add it to my hand. That is when he enters the field, or when we take damage with him off of an EX burst, we can search for Ida. If a card named Ida deals damage to a forward, I can increase that damage by 2,000 instead. Moving in, we are running 3 copies of said Ida. She's a 2-drop, 2,000, and when you first look at her, you're like, that's not very good. But, and this is where Ida becomes a beast. For each job Scion of the 7th Dawn other than Ida I control, Ida gains plus 2,000. So if I have 3 other Scions, Ida gets plus 6,000. She's 8,000 for a 2-drop. If I control 6, she's 14,000 for a 2-drop. That is big numbers, and that is really good numbers. And then her ability is, when she attacks, I can choose 1 dull forward my opponent controls and deal it damage equal to half of Ida's power, rounded down to the nearest 1,000. With Papalimo, that'll be an extra 2,000 as well. Really good card. Ida is the beast of this deck. Moving out of the job Scions of the 7th Dawn, but staying with category 14, we are running 3 copies of the Oracle of Light. She is new in the Shadowbringers starter. I realize that's not new when I just said that, but she is newer to the deck. The job Scions of the 7th Dawn forwards I control gain plus 2,000. That is really good. She's going to give Ida an additional plus 2,000, even if she is not a job Scion of the 7th Dawn herself. That is really good for Thancred's power. Thancred can be a 12,000 if we play another Scion and Oracles on the field. Really big numbers this deck is very capable of hitting. But the Oracle is amazing for her other ability. When the Oracle of Light is sent from the field to the break zone, I can choose to remove her, and I can play 1 job Scion of the 7th Dawn forward. Sorry, 1 job Scion of the 7th Dawn. So it can be a backup as well. From my break zone on the field. So depending on what my field looks like, we can do cool little combos like this. Say my opponent attacks. We block with the Oracle. Oracle goes to the discard, to the break zone. We banish Oracle, and we then bring back Yashala Doll. Now, if I have 4 job Scions of the 7th Dawn, with Yashala, we can bring back Thancred. So we have, like, the field presence that the Oracle gives this deck is just insane, and I love it. I love it, you guys. Oracle of Light is arguably one of the best additions that this deck has gotten. Then we have 2 copies of the Crystal Exarch. This card is amazing. This deck is all about those can be all about those big numbers, especially with Ida, and the Crystal Exarch definitely puts us more on that track. It is a 3-drop Earth forward, category 14, 7,000 power on its own. At the beginning of each attack phase, both mine and my opponent's, the Crystal Exarch can give something on the field plus 2,000 power. That is really good. That is really, really good. Not even just us, because there are cards, not so much in this deck, that will break cards if they have a different power. So if we were running those cards, we can even use this on our opponent's cards and break them. Really good stuff here on the Crystal Exarch. And then at damage 5, the Crystal Exarch gains. When the Crystal Exarch attacks, choose 1 forward. If its power is less than the Exarch's, break it. Really good card. Really, really good card. We can give itself the 2,000 power, and at damage 5, when we attack, we're attacking for 9,000. We can break something that is less than 9,000. Amazing. Then we are rounding out our category 14 forwards with 2 copies of Rameau, Lord of Levin. I love the primals from Opus 14. I love the primals. They are all either good to really, really broken. And Rameau is kind of in the middle here. If I have 2 or more lightning summons in my break zone when he's summoned, Rameau gains haste. When Rameau, Lord of Levin, or one of my lightning summons deals damage to a forward, I can break it. And that is a really important ability with one of the summons we're going to show you in just a few minutes. Really good card, and I'm going to show you guys the really cool combos coming up here in a bit. Then rounding out our forwards, we have 2 copies of Illawa and 1 copy of Roach. These guys are in here because they have haste. Illawa is really good because she can eat a summon or ability that targets her once per turn to cancel its effect. Her ability for a discard of herself, I can activate all the forwards on my field and they gain haste. That is really good if my opponent has dulled them and I can't do anything with them. I can play Illawa, reactivate them all, give them all haste, do some stuff. It's really good stuff. Roche, on the other hand, is broken. I would eventually like to maybe replace all the two Illawas with 2 more Roches. But in my area, unless you're ordering online, they're really hard to find. He's a soldier, category 7, 2-drop lightning. He has haste. If I do not control any characters, he can be played for free. So if I open my opening hand and I have Roche, I can play him for free and I can attack with him because he has haste. I can do damage before my opponent even gets to have a turn, which is really awesome. And then at damage 3, he gains plus 3,000 for 2. That is a really good card. Really, really good card. Moving into our summons, we are running 3 copies of Raiden from Revenant Wings. This is the combo. So this is the combo. Raiden's ability, he's an EX burst as well. So if I take him as damage, his effect will activate as well. Deal 2,000 damage to all active forwards your opponent controls. Draw a card. Now, I know 2,000 damage does not seem like a lot, but then you add in if you have Rameau on the field. Rameau says whenever forwards take damage from Rameau or one of my lightning summons, break it. So because this deals damage to all active forwards, Rameau is going to break all of those active forwards with its ability. This is a very nice little combo, very niche. I love it. I love it. Good cards all around. And then we are rounding out our summons with 3 copies of Rameau EX. I am placing a card order to get a better Rameau that works better with the Lord 11, because this one does not. It is a 4-drop EX burst. Choose 1 forward. It loses 7,000 power. That is not the same as dealing damage, so it will not trigger Rameau's Lord 11's ability. But if it's flipped over as an EX burst, it deals 8,000 instead. So it's still a good card, but it just doesn't work as well with Rameau as Raiden does. There's a Rameau, I can't remember which set it's from, but it lets me deal 2,000 to 2 forwards. I would rather replace it with that. So we're definitely going to have to place an order and look into that. So getting into our backups now. If you're familiar with the Final Fantasy card game, when you want to pay for a card's CP cost, you can either discard a card from your hand to produce 2 CP of that type. So if we discarded Illawa, it would produce 2 CP of lightning to play a lightning forward. However, backups are like lands in Magic. So with that, it'll produce 1 copy, 1 CP of that chosen type. It's really, you like having backups if you need like a CP of 3 cost, because then you're not discarding 2 cards from your hand and having to pay 4 to play a 3, because mana doesn't carry over. A CP doesn't carry over. If you have extra CP from a cost, you don't get to use that extra CP for something else. So we're running 3 copies of Alize. Alize is really awesome. If I control a card named Alpha Node, then her cost is reduced by 1, so making her a 3 CP instead of a 4 CP. And the Job Scions of the 7th Dawn forwards I control gain haste. That is very important because that makes this deck very, very dangerous. I played in a monthly tournament in Kingston a few months back, and it took me a while to get to an Alize, and not having haste made this deck a lot slower, made this deck a lot clunkier. You need Alize on the field to be able to really use this deck to its full potential. She is definitely the heart of this deck for sure. Then we're running 3 copies of her brother Alpha Node. Alpha Node's a 2-drop CP, 2-drop lightning CP backup. His effect is meh. You can pay 1 lightning and tap Alpha Node to choose 1 active forward, deal it 1,000 damage. If I control a Job Scion, I can deal it 2,000 damage instead. It'll come up sometimes, but not very often. He's mostly in here because he's another Job Scion title, so which means we can get an extra 2,000 for Yida, and it'll count towards putting a bigger CP cost card on the field with Yashala. Then we're running 3 copies of Kral. Kral's actually really useful. Not only is she a job sign of the 7th Dawn, which means she'll help trigger Yashala and Yida's abilities, but her ability in itself is actually really good. So for 1 earth, one CP of any color, and I tap Kral, choose 1 forward I control. During this turn, it cannot be returned to the hand by summons or abilities. That is really good because there are a lot of cards in this game that return stuff to hand. There's an Aerith for wind and water. Water in general likes to return characters to hand. So really good card to have in here to keep like my my cards on the field when I'm pushing for game. Really good card. And then if Alize is the heart of Scions of the 7th Dawn in the Final Fantasy trading card game, then Minfilia EX is its soul. Minfilia EX is arguably one of the best backups in this deck, if not the best backup in this deck. So her ability, which we can hard cast by playing her, or if we take her as damage as an EX burst, when Minfilia enters the field, you may search your deck for 1 job Scion of the 7th Dawn forward and add it to your hand. Really good card. You can get whatever you need for any situation. You can add Urianger and then use Urianger to search for category 14 characters. This is a really good card. Very, very, very useful in this deck. Like I said, if Alize is the heart, Minfilia is the soul, because this deck does not run properly without Minfilia. She also has another ability, which is really, really good as well. For 1 earth and you tap Minfilia, you put Minfilia in the break zone, choose 1 forward my opponent controls, and break it. And I can only use this ability if I control 5 job Scions of the 7th Dawn. That is really easy to do when you think about now we have the Oracle of Light. So if you have 2 backups plus Minfilia, and say you have 1 forward, 1 Scion forward. We'll say it's Papalimo for the purpose of this. And I have the Oracle of Light. I can block something with the Oracle of Light, send the Oracle of Light to the discard pile, bring back Yashala, use Yashala's ability to bring back another Scion. That's 5 Scions on the field, trigger Minfilia, break a forward. Really good card, really versatile, really, really useful. And then to round out our backups, we're running 1 copy of Louisoix. Louisoix is literally in here to fetch his grandchildren, Alpha Node and Alize. You need Alize in the hand. I'm actually thinking about increasing this to 2 copies, just because I need as fast access to Alize as I can possibly get. We're running 1 copy of Miner. Miner is good for hand management. If we have to discard a Miner is a 4-drop Earth backup. When he comes in the field, when he comes into play, I can add 1 backup to my hand. If we've had to discard something like a Minfilia to play something else on the field, we can return it to hand with Miner. And then his ability, for 1 earth, 1 of any color, and we dull Miner, we can add 1 forward from our break zone into our hand. Really versatile card. And then we're also running 1 copy of Class 10th Moogle. 2 CP Earth backup that also produces Lightning CP, which is really, really good. Really hits us, really helps us aim where we want to go. Because in the Final Fantasy trading card game, to cast a character, you only have to pay with at least 1 CP of their color. So if we wanted to play Ramo and I had Class 10 Moogle and I only had Earth cards in my hand, we could discard these Earth cards for 4 Earth CP, tap the Moogle for 1 Lightning CP, and then we can play Ramo. So definitely good for management of CP and really knowing where we want to play our cost. So that is our Final Fantasy TCG Scions of the 7th Dawn deck profile. Again, it might be a little bit harder to build now because I don't know how easily accessible this starter deck is. But yeah, it's easily built with 2 starter decks. Like the bulk of this deck comes from these 2 starter decks. The Scion, just gonna try this. the Scion of the 7th Dawn starter deck, and the Shadowbringers 2-player starter deck. So that was my Scion deck. I hope you guys enjoy it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you want more Final Fantasy trading card game content on the channel. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys have any suggestions for changes we can make to this deck, I would love to hear it. Like I said, I am not the best Final Fantasy player in the world. If you guys have any options, like maybe some of the Fire Scions, maybe they're a lot better than I think, let me know in the comments below. And as always, friends, don't forget to like and subscribe. Ding the notification bell if you wanted to be alerted to any of our content we have on the channel. And as always, friends, stay safe out there, and I will see you when I see you.